back, ladies and gentlemen, to the She Knows Pro Football podcast. Once again, I'm Alice, aka the NFL Girl, and once again, I got my good friend Dominick here with me. Dominick, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. We got the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Fortunately, the season's just about to come to an end, but at least the right two teams are in the Super Bowl.
Absolutely. Listen, it has been a great season, culminating in what is probably one of the best Super Bowls in a long time. Historic Super Bowl. We got two brothers playing in the Super Bowl, as well as two brothers playing in the Super Bowl. It's going to be phenomenal. I can't wait. That being said, Dominick, let's go ahead and get started with our Super Bowl picks. Who do you think is going to win Super Bowl 57?
Well, I know it's going to sound like a homer pick because I am an Eagles fan, but I honestly do think that the Eagles are going to win this, and I'll give you some reasons why so you don't think it's a total homer pick. The Chiefs, especially if L'Jarius Sneed is not able to play, which looks like he may be out, is going to be starting 4 rookie cornerbacks and safeties in their secondary, so that's going to be very tough against Jalen Hurts and against A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. They're going to have a very tough time covering them, so that's going to be difficult for them, obviously. They do have Chris Jones up front being able to get to the quarterback. He finally got his first sack in the playoffs in his playoff career last week, but he didn't have to go against the Eagles' offensive line, which is the best in the league. Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata have been great there this year. Even though he was injured, Lane Johnson came back. He's been playing through a torn abductor muscle. He still hasn't let up any pressures or anything in the playoffs, even though he's going against Nick Bosa and everything. Last week, he's been great. He's been the key to that offensive line, obviously, along with Jason Kelce. So I think they're going to do great. Obviously, we know Jalen Hurts can play. He's had 15 rushing touchdowns this year, which is the most for a quarterback in NFL history in the season. He's going to have to throw the ball in this game. He only had 121 yards passing in the last game, but he's going to be able to throw the ball in this one because of, like I said, that secondary weakness of the Kansas City Chiefs. And on offense, the Kansas City Chiefs, I know they have Patrick Mahomes, but a lot of their receivers are going to be either injured or out. We know McCole Hartman's on IR now, so he's out. Juju Smith-Schuster is injured, so it's going to be very difficult for them to do a lot on offense. I think the Eagles secondary is going to be able to get at least one touchdown in this game. They're definitely going to pick them off. They only average 180 pass yards per game this year, which is number 1 in the NFL. So they're going to be able to hold down the Chiefs below the 290 that they average on the year. So I just think it's going to be a low scoring game. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game. A lot of people think it could be the highest scoring touchdown Super Bowl ever, which right now is at 75 points. I think it's going to be lower than that. The over under right now is 50.5. I think it's going to go under that. I think it's going to be like 26-21 Eagles.
You guys, I love this matchup so much because we get to see Jalen Hurts, who is really coming into his own as a quarterback here in the Eagles. The team has really bought in on him being the franchise quarterback for the future. And I could see how well he's playing there this season. It was all a matter of getting the right receivers around him and them playing with Devonta Smith last year with, a rotation of people at the WR2. And this year, bringing in A.J. Brown and having a 1A and a 1B made a tremendous difference for them. Now, he is going to come into this game hurt, which is going to be a little bit of an issue. He has this shoulder is giving him somewhat of a little bit of a problem, but I don't think it's going to be a major factor. Meanwhile, the Chiefs on the other side of the ball, again, the whole thing this whole season is we know who he's going to go to. We know he's going to go to Travis Kelce 99% of the time because he really doesn't have quality receivers, and the receivers that he has have been hurt and going in and out during the season. Their ground game has picked up this season, though. They've had good production out of Isaiah Pacheco, even though they haven't had sterling numbers. It's more about the fact that they can continuously keep moving the ball down the field more so than about getting first downs on every play. Again, same issue as with Jalen Hurts. He's coming into this game hurt. And is that ankle of his going to be an issue during the game? I think it is. A high ankle sprain is not something that you heal from overnight. And it's going to be tested. They're going to keep him scrambling, keep him on the move, because that's just how the Eagles defense plays. They are smash mouth football team. They're going to be up in his face every chance they get. Can Mahomes' O-line hold up under the pressure that this defense can put together? That's going to be a hell of a question. I'm not sure that they can. Listen, I agree with Dominick here 100%. This is going to be a lower scoring game. It's going to be a ground and pound type of game. But at the end of the day, I know that the Chiefs will find a way. I don't know how, but this team with Patrick Mahomes is going to will themselves to a win. They have tasted the nasty, bitter taste of getting to a Super Bowl and losing. And that's a horrible feeling. They do not want to taste that again. They are going to find a way to not allow themselves to experience that again. So I'm going to take the Chiefs here in this game. Well, you guys, we are going to move on to Saturday, believe it or not, because that is when we are having the NFL honors. And Dominic and I have made our own picks as to who we think are going to win certain awards this year. So, Dominic, let us get started. We're going to do our picks for MVP. This one is a no-brainer to both of us. So, Dominic, you explain why we both chose Patrick Mahomes.
Well, it's quite simple. He is the best player in the NFL right now. He had 40 touchdowns this year, 12 interceptions. I know Jalen Hurts had a good shot at this, but he missed those 2 games. And if anything, that should have helped his, contention, because you saw that they really did need him in there when they lost the 2 games when he wasn't playing. But this is going to be Mahomes. He was the first team All-Pro quarterback, and when you get 49 of 50 votes for that position, then you're pretty much guaranteed to win the MVP as well.
Absolutely. This man had a tremendous season with over 5,000 yards passing and over 40 touchdowns. That's a hell of a season to put together. And they're back in the Super Bowl. So I know the playoffs play no factor into this, but just the season that he was able to put together this year is just so tremendous. So, yeah, absolutely. That's our MVP. Moving on to our offensive player of the year. Once again, we picked the same player. Dominic, why wasn't Jalen Hurts for us?
Well, kind of the same thing we had with, like I said, with Patrick Mahomes and the MVP. Jalen Hurts was right up there till the end of the year. He could have won this thing if he hadn't missed those 2 games. And I think that the people that vote for him know this, so they want to give him some kind of credit, much like they did with Peyton Manning and Adrian Peterson the year that they split the awards. I just think they're going to do the same thing here. They're going to split these awards so they both get the recognition that they deserve. So I just think that they know they can't give him MVP, so they're going to give him Offensive Player of the Year.
1,000% here. Again, this kid, not only did he put 22 touchdowns through the air, he also had another 13 touchdowns on the ground. That's a hell of a great season right there. And yeah, he can't win out the MVP, but he absolutely will pick up Offensive Player of the Year, because that's just tremendous what he was able to do this season. Next up, we picked our Defensive Player of the Year. Now, this is where we went different directions, but Dominic, tell me why you chose Nick Bosa here.
Yeah, I wasn't overly confident on this one. There were a couple players that it could have been. I like yours as well, being a Penn State fan. I really like him. I just think that Nick Bosa, getting the team to the championship game, leading the league in sacks, I think that just gets him the nod. Luckily, we don't have to worry about Aaron Donald winning this award this year. I know he was great, but he's definitely, if he wins it this year, then I don't know, maybe Arian Foster was right and this thing is scripted. He's not going to win it this year though, and I just think that Nick Bosa had the best year, especially like I said, leading the league in sacks.
He had a tremendous year this year, and I really appreciated what he was able to do this season, especially because he stayed healthy this season, which was what the issue was last season. But I had to go with my guy. I think I picked him last year as well, but Micah Parsons, man, this kid is just so tremendous on what he's been able to do coming into this league. 13 and a half sacks and 3 forced fumbles this year. I know he didn't put up the same type of numbers that we saw in his rookie season, but just what he's able to do, it's the way that he's able to disrupt games. He's going to be all over that ball wherever the hell they go. And I love that about him. I'm sorry that he's on the Cowboys. That's neither here nor there, but that's definitely my pick of Defensive Player of the Year. And I can't wait to see which one of us is right, but I definitely feel confident it's going to be Micah here. And then next up for Offensive Rookie of the Year, we went different directions. Dominic, tell us all about why it's Kenneth Walker III here.
I really can't. Like we were talking about before the show started, none of these 3 finalists exude confidence in picking them. Nobody had an outstanding year like Jamar Chase did last year, like Justin Jefferson or Justin Herbert did the year before. It's just, roll the dice and pick one and see which one wins. I went with Kenneth Walker because he did get his team to the playoffs. I know Brock Purdy's in there as well, but to me, as much as I love Brock Purdy and I probably could pick him, the fact that he only played in a third of the 49ers games led me just to go to Kenneth Walker.
Listen, I'm like you. It's kind of like a toss up because I didn't particularly care for any of these candidates, but I leaned the other way and did go with Brock Purdy, 1,374 yards, 13 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown. That's not bad considering the fact that he only started, maybe 6, 7 games and then, lost in the playoffs. That's pretty good. So, again, there was no like one player this season where it was just like, wow, I know this guy's got to be the winner at the end of the season. We were way off on our picks before the season started, but yeah, I'm gonna take Brock Purdy here. And listen, if it's Kenneth Walker the third, I won't be surprised at all. Next up, we picked our defensive rookie of the year. Now, here we went in the same direction again. So tell us, everyone, why it's Sauce Gardner for us.
It could be anybody else now. With, like we said, with the offensive player of the year, rookie of the year, nobody stood out. With the defensive player of the year, he definitely stood out. He made himself possibly even the best cornerback in the league this year as a rookie, even though he was the second cornerback taken in the draft behind Derek Stingley. He just had an amazing year on a terrible Jets team, and if it's anybody other than him, I would be completely shocked.
I would be floored because, believe me, Sauce Gardner, to stand out on a team like the Jets admittedly were better than what they were, say, like last year and definitely from 2 years ago. But just to see how well this kid played on a team that was only so is phenomenal. So I love this kid, Sauce. For me, it's him or no one else. So definitely we agree that that's our defensive rookie of the year. And next is comeback player of the year. And again, we lean the same way. Why is it Saquon Barkley here?
Because out of all the finalists, he's the only one that came back from anything. We talked about this earlier too. I mean, Christian McCaffrey played some last year, didn't play great. He missed a lot of the earlier part of this year and didn't do really anything during the season until he went to San Francisco. So to me, that kind of limits him, where Saquon Barkley was 4th in the league in rushing, 8th in the league in carries, 4th in the league in touchdowns, or top 10 in touchdowns. He just had a great overall year for the entire year, not just part of the year. And I know the other person who was a finalist here was Geno Smith. To me, he didn't come back from anything. He was more of like a making the leap or a most improved candidate because he went from a backup to being a very good starter. But to me, that's not a comeback player. To me, Saquon was the one that had to come back. He missed most of the last year with his ankle and knee and everything else that he missed with. And then he came back to be, like I said, top 10 in carries, rushing yards, as well as touchdowns this year in the NFL.
Listen, this is where the one issue that I have with the NFL as far as comeback player of the year. In the NBA, they have a most improved player category. And if you want to have players say that they made a leap from what they did from one season to the next, have a most improved players. Nothing, I don't think that's an insult. I think that's just saying, like, listen, last year you were okay, this year you were great. But since they don't do that and they lump everybody into comeback player of the year, I'm not going to pick somebody like a Geno or a CMC where they didn't really come back. They just took a leap from where they were, say, a season ago. Saquon actually came back from an injury, a devastating injury for a running back, and he came back and had one hell of a season. This man rushed for over 10 touchdowns and over 1,300 yards. Come on, you guys. You got to give it to this kid. And he stayed healthy all season, which was another great factor. So love it. I can't pick nobody else, and I think it'd be unfair if they give it to someone other than Saquon. So yeah, absolutely, it's got to be Saquon here. And last up, we're going to talk about the coach of the year. This is where we went in different directions. But tell me why you chose Doug Peterson.
Yeah, my second choice was actually Brian Daboll from the Giants. Just because of what the Giants were last year compared to what they were this year. But to that sense, the Jaguars were even better. I mean, they won a playoff game, which the Giants did as well. But they went from the depths of hell last year with your boy Urban Meyer, with one win all year. Then they ended up winning the division, winning the playoff game in a comeback fashion against the Chargers. I just think that he did so much for this team, and I know he's not a first-time head coach, so he already had the experience in Philadelphia and everything, so it's maybe not as extraordinary as like Brian Daboll doing what he did with the Giants. But I just think that the Jaguars had obviously much less to work with. Yes, they had Trevor Lawrence, but other than him, they really had a lot less to work with than the Giants did. So I just think that he did an amazing job. And the fact that, like I said, they won the division, which what to me was seemingly impossible before the year started. So that's why I had to give it to Doug.
Listen, I totally agree with you on a lot of the points that you're making there. Doug Peterson did a hell of a job in making this team play cohesively, which they weren't able to do last year. Urban Meyer put a horrible stamp on that team, and it didn't look like they would be able to recover. There were talks of like, is Trevor Lawrence overrated? Is he, washed up already? I'm like, damn, this kid ain't only been in the damn league one season. Give the kid some time, and then to see what Doug Peterson was able to do with him is just so tremendous. So yeah, kudos to Doug Peterson there. But my pick here was Nick Sirianni, because I just love what Nick Sirianni was able to do this year. I think back to his opening press conference when he was introduced there in Philly, and how he kind of fumbled over himself, and it's kind of awkward and everything. It was like, oh God, this dude is going to do so bad in Philly, who we're going to eat him alive, because that's just how Philly people are, no offense. And yet we see where he is now. These guys are in the damn Super Bowl. Sirianni was able to get these kids all working together. A.J. Brown coming in from another team, kind of had a chip on his shoulder. Would he be able to play cohesively with Jalen Hurts and with Devontae Smith? Guess what? He was. This team looks so good. So yeah, I got to give it to Nick Sirianni on what he was able to do this season. So that was my pick there. And then, well, you guys, we got to talk about two coaching hires. The coaching cycle is still ongoing, but so far, two teams have made their head coaching hires. I know there's been some assistants hired and OCs and DCs hired, which some of them are tremendous to me. But we really got to talk about two, because two of these two have stand out because of the teams that they're for. So first of all, Dominic, we got to talk about this DeMeco Ryans hire in Texas with the Texans. So why is this such a, do we think this is going to work out? It's the Texans. We know their history and everything. Why or why not do we see this being a good fit for this team?
Yeah, real quick, I just want to say I do really like the Brian Flores hire in Minnesota as well. I'm glad he got a job, and I think if he does really good this year, he'll get a head coaching job next year, which he never would have seen after last year, which I think is awesome. But talking about DeMeco Ryans, I do think if you want to grade it on a curve, that it is going to work out. I just think because he was there before, they know him, they love him there. He was an All-Pro there, that they like him. The one thing that I do like here, that obviously I can't speak on it being a fat white old guy or whatever, but the fact that yes, he is black and this is the third black head coach in a row, I do not think they're going to let him go after 1 year. The reason I say that this time is because the other two coaches had 3-year contracts. He was actually had the ability to go anywhere he wanted. Everybody wanted him. They knew that. They gave him a 6-year contract. They're not going to release him after 1 year. I think they'll give him at least 4 years. That on top of that, he's already had the support of J.J. Watt, which is obviously super important down there in Houston. So I don't think they're going to I think the fans will revolt if they only gave him 1 year. I think they're going to give him at least 4 years because he does have the support and the backing of people like J.J. Watt and of players on that team. So I really, based playing on a curve, I think in the next 4 years, maybe in the next 2 years, he can get them into the playoffs. He may be able to get them, especially in that division, which is very weak right now. He could get them to win the division in 2 or 3 years. I don't think it'll get him to a Super Bowl, but that's really, at this point in what's going on with that team, I don't think that's realistic. I just think that they need to be 500. They need to get to a playoff. They need to maybe win a playoff game or two. And I think that in the next 3 or 4 years, he's going to be able to do that for them. So I do think that when you grade it on a curve like that, I do think that it was a successful hire for them and for him.
Listen, if it was, I just have an issue with the McNair family. They don't have the best history. They don't have the best relationship with minority players. I'll leave it at that. And this hire, it's just one right after the other after the other. Do I think DeMeco Ryan will be given more of a chance? Absolutely, because we saw what he was able to do as a DC with the 49ers. He did phenomenal there. And that probably is going to be their focus there in Houston. Build up this defense. That's one of their weaknesses among many issues that they have. I hope, I'm going in with high hopes that they give D'Amico Ryan more of a chance. Like you said, they gave him a longer contract than they did the other one. So maybe it's with the idea that they can see more potential out of it. Now, here's my thing. I think if they go into it with the realistic expectations, like say the Jets did with Robert Saleh. Robert Saleh first season there was garbage in New York. He didn't do great with the Jets, but rather than just give up on him like we see the Texans doing over and over and over again, they were like, you know what? Let's see what he can do if, we give him an opportunity to get a couple of drafts under his belt and see what he was able to do. Now, again, like you're saying here, will they make the playoffs or will they get into a Super Bowl? Probably not. But Robert Saleh was able to turn this team into something, which was something they hadn't been in a while. So I'm hoping for the same thing here with the Texans. If they give D'Amico Ryan an opportunity to get a couple of drafts under his belt, get a couple of players in there, he needs more receivers. He needs, no offense to Davis Mills, but I think he needs a better quality QB there. If they get the right pieces and they give D'Amico Ryan time, I think he can be competitive in that division. It's not, like you said, it's not a strong division. It's not. Jaguars are good. They're not great. And right now, Titans' biggest weapon is Derrick Henry. When he goes down, so goes the team. And of course, we don't know what the hell they're doing. We're gonna get on that next. But yeah, I pray for D'Amico Ryan. That's why I say I hope for the best. I hope that they give him at least as much chance that Woody Johnson did in the Jets with Robert Saleh. So that's my hope there. And then the other coaching hire we got to talk about is my team, of course, and the addition of Sean Payton. Now, Sean Payton has made some waves already. He's already come in there and said Russell Wilson and his little personal coaches and little personal chiropractor. We ain't doing that. Ain't none of that nonsense going on here. The people that are going to be in this building are going to be the people that work for this organization. So, Dominic, do we see this being able to work out? Is there going to be a time where maybe Russell Wilson and Sean Payton aren't going to be able to get along? Or how do we see this whole scenario playing out? We see this as a net positive for the Broncos?
It's going to work out for Sean Payton. It's not going to work out for Russell Wilson. And the funny thing is that D'Amico Ryan's actually got a longer contract than Sean Payton did. But obviously, Sean Payton still has more job security. I just think that Russell Wilson will be there for this year. And if it works out, then everybody's going to think Sean Payton's a genius. If it doesn't work out, everybody's going to say, well, Sean Payton did what he could. Obviously, if he's a genius, like he's a genius with offense and he couldn't get Russell Wilson to do anything, then obviously Russell Wilson is broken. And then the Broncos are going to let him get out of that contract and go get his own quarterback. So either way, this is going to work out for Sean Payton. I don't know if it's going to work out for Russell Wilson. They're definitely going to be better this year than they were last year. I don't know if that means that they're going to make the playoffs or make a Super Bowl or anything, because they're still in possibly the toughest division in the NFL, especially if, say, Aaron Rodgers goes to the Raiders or whatever. But I just think that they could be better than this year and still finish in last place next year. And that's quite an easy possibility. It could be like 8 and 9 next year and finish in last place in this division. But I do think they're going to be better. I think Sean Payton's going to get this thing figured out. Patrick Mahomes can't take the team to the Super Bowl every year. He's been to 5 AFC championship games in 5 years. He can't do that every year. So eventually somebody's going to catch him, whether it be Herbert and the Chargers or whether it be Wilson or whoever, somebody else. And, the Broncos, if it could be Drake May after next year or something, like, who knows, it's going to be somebody catching the Chiefs. And with Sean Payton there, it definitely could be the Broncos. He was able to get the Saints from, the brink of disaster into the Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl and keep them in contention for the playoffs every year. He's going to be able to do the same thing with the Broncos with a great defense, which he also had with the New Orleans Saints. Everybody loved his offense, but he had one of the best defenses in leagues year after year after year. He already has that in Denver. So now he just has to get the quarterback correct. We know he has Javonte Williams there at running back. We love what we're going to get out of him when he comes back healthy next year. He has Cortland Sutton there. He has Jerry Jeudy there. We'll see if they can keep going. And like I said, as long as if he can get Russell Wilson going, or if he has to get a new quarterback one way or another, it's going to really work out for Denver in the coming years.
Listen, I agree with you 1,000%. I feel like the Seahawks knew that Russell Wilson was on the decline and pulled an okey doke move and got him out of there and pawned him off on the Broncos, not knowing that he was, with the Broncos not knowing that he wasn't who he was several years prior. So, can Sean Payton make him into something or get something out of him? I think so. I think there's going to be some butting of heads. I know, saying that he can't have his coaches there and all the other stuff might be an issue at some point or whatever. But if they start winning games, I think Russell Wilson will get the hell over it real quick. I know Sean Payton has the potential to do that. I've seen what he's done with less and be able to get more out of a team. So can he do that? Can he get that same kind of potential? Absolutely. Will it may at some point have to be that Russell Wilson isn't there? That's a distinct possibility. If you ask me right now, between the two who I want, it would be Sean Payton more than it would be Russell Wilson, just based off of what I've seen. But I think if we can get over whatever injuries that Russell Wilson had, if we can get some of the other distractions out of the way, and we get a coach in there that really knows what the hell he's doing and can work with an older quarterback like Sean Payton was doing at the end there, it absolutely can work out. And I'm kind of looking forward. I'm going to wait and see of what's going to happen. I didn't think Nathaniel Hackett was the right fit for that team. If they had gotten Aaron Rodgers, maybe I would feel a little differently. But considering what they ended up with and how that worked out, I just never felt like that was going to be a good fit. And I think that this is a much better fit with a much better ownership that I think will give him more reign to do what needs to be done, even if that means at some point Russell Wilson is not the starting QB there. And the last issue you and we were talking about off the air, and I kind of want to touch on it here too, just because it just makes me laugh so much, is this Colts coaching situation. They have yet to hire a head coach. Jim Irsay came out yesterday with a statement saying that it's a matter of days, not hours. He's taking his time and doing his due diligence, which is the buzzword out right now or whatever. Listen, stop it. Stop it right now. So, goodness gracious. Dominic, let's just talk about it. What is going on here? Do we think at the end of the day, Irsay is just going to pull the trigger and go ahead and hire Jeff Saturday, or we really think he's doing his due diligence? Maybe he's waiting for Bieniemy to get out of the Super Bowl. Is that what we think is happening here?
I do think it's going to be first of all, I know you and I have talked over the past 2 years doing the show about Eric Bieniemy needing to get a job. He does not want the Colts job because with Jim Irsay there and being how he is, how we know he is, kind of like we were talking about with the Carolina Panthers job, we would not have wanted him to go to David Tepper either. It's just not a great place for a first-time head coach unless you were already on the team like Jeff Saturday was. I'm going to say that there's a 50% chance that it's Jeff Saturday and 50% that it's one of the other like 14 or 15 head coaches that they've interviewed in the past. I do think he has obviously the ear of Jeff Saturday. If he's not the head coach, he's going to be on staff there in some form. If I were Jeff Saturday and I were smart, I would say, hey, listen, Jim, I'm not head coaching material right now. I need to get practice in this. I need to work my way up. I would love to be your offensive line coach, maybe your head coach in waiting, but I'm not really head coach material right now. But nobody's going to turn down $5-6 million or whatever they're paying head coaches, whatever Jim Irsay is going to pay the head coach here, to make $1.5 million or whatever is the offensive line coach. So he's not going to do that. With that said, I think it is going to be Jeff Saturday, but if not, I don't think it's going to be Bieniemy. I actually think that they might be waiting for maybe Shane Steichen from the Eagles, like their offensive coordinator, possibly Ben Johnson, the quarterbacks coach from the Eagles. There's been a lot of, buzz about him as well, although they're talking about him going to Notre Dame to be their offensive coordinator there. But I do think it may be somebody in this game, but I don't think it's going to be somebody on the Chiefs sideline. I think it might be somebody on the Eagles sideline.
Okay. Listen, I'm so glad that you said that, because I'm so nervous for this team, because I really don't want it to be Jeff Saturday. And that's not to say because I don't like Jeff Saturday. Again, like we said, You can like somebody as a person. You can have, in the case of Jim Irsay, you can love Jeff Saturday. You won the Super Bowl with him. You have a great relationship with him. You know, he's a great human being. He's been a good analyst on TV, all of those things. But you can realize that somebody just isn't good for a head coach, at least not right now. I'm not saying you can't develop him into that. And maybe say 3, 4, 5 years from now, say, okay, now that you've been, you know, a offensive line assistant, a offensive coordinator, a passing coordinator, whatever the case is, developing over several years, then start offer him the job as head coach. Then that makes more sense. Trying to shoehorn him into a position I don't think that he's ready for is going to be a disaster for this team. And I don't want that for them. Colts have the potential to be a good team if they make the right decisions. And that starts right here at the top with Jim Irsay. Come on, dude, don't do this to your team. If you're waiting on for one of these Eagles coaches, that's fine. I get it. Maybe you don't want to hire Bieniemy for whatever reason. I'm not getting into that every single year, but if you're waiting on one of the Eagles coaches, that's fine. Get the Eagles coach in there and say, hey, come Saturday, come on in and be one of our O-line coaches, and then let's develop you up so maybe in a few years we can see where you are and see where we are and see if we're ready to make that kind of decision and make you the head coach. So yeah, I'm kind of with you on this whole situation. It's just so frustrating to watch this going on right now.
Well, it would be funny for the Colts to go from one Eagles offense coordinator to another one.
Oh God, I totally forgot about that. Yep, but I could totally see them doing that though. Well, you guys, that's all the time that we got today. We covered a lot of ground for you guys, so I hope y'all enjoyed listening to it because we had fun recording this. You can follow me on Twitter at TheNFLGirl320. Dominick, where can they follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter at EnvisionFF.
You can read more of my thoughts on SheKnowsProFootball.com. Dominick, where can they read your work?
You can read my work at PhiladelphiaEagles.com, TheAthletic.com, and SportsbookWire.com.
That's all the time we have, you guys. Enjoy the Super Bowl, and we will see you back here next time.